almost continuously. It moves.
Hello, hello. Good morning, afternoon, evening, or whatever time zone you're in. My name is Maaike Van Putten, and I work as a tech educator and software developer. For the next 10 minutes, we'll talk about how to grow as a developer in 2025. I've been in this industry for over a decade already, and whoa, has the world changed in these years? It's definitely not just about learning how to code anymore. As you probably know, the market is tougher than it used to be, and if I could give you one thing with this talk, it would be to have a practical roadmap. Well, and to have a confidence boost. Okay, that's two things, but still. Let's start with the first. There are three things that matter more than ever in 2025. First of all, nothing new here, writing clean and understandable code. Second, that is new, working with AI and the mindset shift that comes with it. And lastly, developing personal habits that make the growth sustainable. Let's start with the evergreen software development topic that you probably have heard of, clean code. Clean code is about writing simple software that sticks to the best practices. It makes code easier to understand and it makes it easier to make changes. And that's maybe even more relevant today than ever. AI may be writing more code now, but guess what? We humans still have to read it. And when you write code that humans need to understand, it's often future you that needs to understand it. So clean code isn't just about being neat and tidy, it's about writing software that can hold up over time. A great book that shaped me early on was Clean Code by Robert C. Martin. I got it from a friend, and if you did not have a friend that recommended it, you're really missing out a foundational mind shift. So I can highly, highly recommend this book. And cla- another classic must read is The Pragmatic Programmer. And this book pretty much reminds us that being a good dev is about way more than about just knowing the syntax. I love reading. Reading is great. But what really helps is applying these ideas. If clean code is relatively new, you can have a little checklist on your desk. And before you consider your work finished, you could see if you can make any improvements. Can I make it simpler? Can I make it clearer? And yes, AI is here and it will write code for us. But clean code is not going anywhere. In fact, AI amplifies the importance of maintainable and human readable code. The code written by the AI tools will be reviewed and adjusted by humans and other AI tools, so we all need to understand it. So, in fact, reading code might be more important than writing code in your day to day job now. Again, because of AI. And honestly, that brings me to the next point already. AI is changing everything. So, let's address the elephant in the IDE. No, not this elephant. AI is not replacing us. At least, it is not replacing us yet. But it is definitely changing the way that we code. Tools such as GitHub Copilot, ChatGPT, Cursor, and Amazon Code Whisperer, and a whole lot more, they are making suggestions faster than we can think, or at least faster than I can think. And it's kind of tempting to feel either panicked or lazy. But here's today's truth: AI is your teammate, not your replacement. Using AI to write your code speeds up the how, so you can focus on the why. And teams are likely to become hybrid teams in a new way, a combination of humans and AI assistants. And to bring us back to the clean code is the common language everyone, both AI and non AI, can understand. It helps to keep the collaboration of the human and the machine smooth. Messy code confuses both humans and machines. That brings me to a problem. It's easier than ever to create messy code with the use of AI. How does this work? Well, it's simple. AI increases um, the velocity of code production, which can lead to technical debt faster if quality practices aren't followed. AI is great, but the output often requires some tweaks to become clean code. And again, we need clean code because that slows down the debt buildup and makes refactoring and scaling more manageable over time. The developers who thrive are not just good coders. They are good editors, good critical thinkers, and good at asking the right questions at the right time. But then again, those were always the good developers who stood out. So maybe not everything is changing. It's all staying the same in a new way. And as developers, we always had to learn new things. New tools have always been popping up. And the same principles apply as they always did. Curiosity is more important than memorization, which is good for me because I have the memory of a goldfish. And understanding the domain and architecture is what distinguishes good developers from great developers. If you love learning and being flexible, those new tools will help you a lot. So, when we talk about skills, the latest skill to learn is how to prompt for code and being able to debug and correct the AI generated code. That would probably be the main new skill for 2025. And if you zoom out a little bit, you can start thinking about what it means to build software with AI embedded into every part of the lifecycle. It's really not that scary. The very first day of my job as a software developer, when I was only 22, they told me soon we'd be out of work because of tools like Mendix that allow us to create apps with non code. And I remember feeling a bit uncomfortable about that. I had a much older, friendly colleague, and he added to that, well, that's what they said to me 20 years ago, and here we are. And I feel like that as well now, like the much older, friendly colleague, because sure, one day it might be true, but for now it's not that day, and I don't worry about that at all. I just care about one thing in my work, and that's what I tell my students as well. You just have to outrun yesterday's version of you, which actually brings me to the third point, the habits and the mindsets that have helped me and the developers I coach to grow no matter what tech throws at us. So let's be real. Most of us don't suffer from a lack of tutorials, it's rather the opposite. We suffer from an information overload and not enough focus and clarity in our minds. So here's what I found that helps developers grow faster and go further. First of all, and it sounds a bit cheesy, but schedule tech dates with yourself. Yes, you can even put them in your calendar as tech date if you like, but setting apart time for learning weekly is for me personally a must have, because weeks fly by without what I actually wanted to do if I did not schedule and protected my time well. And that's true for more people. So just go for it and schedule those moments with yourself. Then work on small but real projects. If you want to learn React, just to give an example, you won't just follow a React tutorial. Instead, try to follow the tutorial with what you want to build in mind. It can be small and weird. You know, you could build a cat mood tracker, which is actually something I've done at some point. But real projects, they help you to ask the better questions and debug any real world chaos. And as a nice bonus, it gives you something to talk about during any tech interviews you might get. Next, it feels a bit weird, but keep a break document on your desktop. Every week, or if you are, making more progress every day, write down something new that you've learned or created, or a compliment that you got from a colleague or a client. And then when imposter syndrome knocks, yes, when it knocks, not if it knocks, but when it knocks, you'll have proof of your progress and you can make the imposter syndrome go to its dormant state again. If it's uncomfortable and scary, you are doing it right, usually. If something feels hard and it's difficult to understand, don't panic, because that's typically just our brain growing. Learning is supposed to be a little bit uncomfortable, and it just means we're doing it right. Learning happens a little bit outside of the comfort zone. And my personal favorite, you don't have to be an expert to teach and share what you learned. You just need to be one step ahead of someone else. So start a blog, start a YouTube channel, or just record a podcast where you explain the things you've learned to your rubber duck. Teaching really forces clarity and bonus points if you have students that ask questions, because that will understand. Because that will understand things at a deeper level. You'll think of things that they are thinking of that did not cross your mind yet. So to bring this all together, what matters for growing as a developer in 2025? It's not about changing every shiny new tool or framework. But let's face it, software development was never about that. And at the same time, it's also not about fighting change, but rather embracing it. And that still applies in the AI era. So don't try to outcode AI. Instead, use it and increase your productivity. And while you're at it, understand the need for writing clean code that you and your teammates, both your human and your AI teammates, can understand. And above all, it's about showing up consistently and protecting your time to grow. So, one point that I'd like to stress again is the importance of protecting your positive mindset. You're not fighting AI, you're working with AI. And all you need to do is to stay a little bit ahead of yesterday's you. One thing will stay the same, and that is that tech will keep changing. But if you keep learning and have the mental flexibility to adapt, You always have a place in it. Thank you for being here, and I'm happy to take any questions you might have now. Okay, so I get a question. What are a few AI tools that you actually use as a developer, and how do they help you? Um, I use mostly two tools right now, and one of them is GitHub Copilot, and it helps me in my IDE to quickly spin up code and to debug codes. And I like it because it has a little bit of a view on what I am doing. And as a developer, I also find myself using ChatGPT a lot. And that's mostly for understanding things at a deeper level. But then again, I might actually be a little bit old fashioned here, and I still use Google and Stack Overflow quite a bit as well. So whenever I'm creating something in like the happy flow, I'm mostly in my editor, me and GitHub Copilot. But when I get stuck, I go to ChatGPT and Google and see who can help me out there. Oh, and the documentation, of course. Yes. Oh, I have a question from a university lecturer. I think I might have an idea who that is, Sean. Given the advances in Gen AI, are the days of traditional lecturing over? Also, should we go back to paper for code exams? I think that is a funny question. I don't think days of traditional lecturing are over. I think anything that we said as instructors could be found on the internet for free for a really long time already. So I think teaching is about so much more than just like sending the information. It's about setting the atmosphere of learning in the classroom. It's about guiding and coaching the students to not get stuck in a negative mindset. So it's about a lot more. It's facilitating teamwork. So I don't expect this to be replaced with Gen AI real quickly, or they should be like able to render some hologram that does it for us. But I think I think our jobs are safe for now. Paper exams, I would recommend that you go and examine the students on things that require using AI. So perhaps expect more from them, but let them use AI. I think that would be an easier fix than just go do paper exams for codes. Oh, if I have thoughts on the MCP servers and the agent modes, I think they are great, honestly. I find myself having a lot of success using agents. But they need management as well. So I think my main thought on this is yes, what I need to do in my daily work and what I need to do to be, ranked as successful on any coding assignments is to use the tools that are there because you can't compete without these tools. I always like to make the comparison to a carpenter. Let's say that I have a carpenter who comes to my house and it's like, oh, I don't use any of the modern tools. I just use this screwdriver and I refuse to use any, automatic drills or whatever. I'm not too impressed by this person. I'd much rather have someone who works efficiently using the tools available. And these tools, they are actually really, really good. And yeah, I find myself achieving a lot with them. Ooh, what are the skills that you find you are using less and less or more and more? So that's a good question. So I think what I find myself using less and less is being like an expert on one thing. So for example, I know really a lot about Java and JavaScript, or and if, but like know really a lot about that, and it's less needed. What I use more and more though are people skills and also like generic skills, having an understanding of how things work in general. Because it's still very even more so because you generate the code so fast, you really need to understand the bigger picture. So this understanding of the bigger picture, it's more important than it ever was in my opinion. Yeah, but understanding of the details less so. Ooh, another question. What sites or tools can you recommend so we can better network with other developers? That's actually a really good question, and I don't have a great answer to it. But if you want to network, to be honest, I don't use this a lot myself because I have like a lot of obligations next to my job that make me not leave the house. But if you have the capability of leaving the house, there's always a lot of local networks in the coding fields. So and then there are events like quarterly events on many of these groups. So finding yourself like connecting to one of these groups for a specific language in your area, that can really help to make a strong network because you actually meet these people and have conversations with them. I have someone, it's a very generic. I feel stuck in my role. How would you suggest I show I'm ready for the next level? So I'm not sure, I think I need a bit more context to answer it properly, but let's assume, okay? Let's assume that someone is stuck in a software developer position, maybe like a media software developer, and want to advance to senior software developer. So this is actually a question I get a lot. So typically when you are, especially nowadays, when you're stuck in a media software developer role, just to assume a place that you could be stuck in, it is not as much about learning more about code, though learning more about architecture really helps. But let's say you want to move to senior, or even make first steps in the architecture direction. You want to work on your soft skills, so being able to communicate well, to lead teams, to resolve conflicts, to guide people, help people, mentor people. I think like these soft skills, they're very, very important for most people that are stuck in their roles. And then on the other hand, the idea of the bigger picture. So let's say you're in a certain company, having a really good understanding of the product and the market you're in, but also understanding the application landscape across the company. That's are things that are like very general, though, typically help. But yeah, I can probably give you more details if I have more details. How did I learn to write good AI prompts? Okay, so well, I mean, I'm not claiming I write good AI prompts, to be honest. I mean, I don't think I do a terrible job either, but I do. I did in the beginning. I took some tips from people who had some ideas on that. But a general thing I try to keep in mind is I try to explain to an intern what needs to happen, and then you'll be very detailed, right? It's not like a Google search. I think that's like whenever I help people writing prompts, the main thing that they need to do different is that they should not treat it like a Google search, but try to treat it like an intern. And sometimes you need to explain your intern, hey, what is the role even that you're having here? And that's what I do when I write code prompts as well. Depends a little bit on what I'm doing. But I want to give context. I want to explain the bigger picture and then explain what I need and what I want to have as a first step. So, yes. Oh, another question. With AI generated codes often providing quite performance suggestions, how do you balance optimization with clean, readable codes? Let's see if I understand this question. So it pretty much saying is like AI is doing a pretty good job. How do I balance? I'm trying to make sense of what the question is. So when I use AI to generate my code, I actually go over it line by line. I'm not sure if this is the question, so please ask it again, slightly phrased differently. But what I like to do, I generate it and then I go over it line by line, and I will generate a test for it as well. But I go over all the bits and pieces and see if they make sense to me. And usually it does, right? It is 90% good typically, and you just have small tweaks because you know a little bit better the context, and sometimes it loses some details of your prompts and it starts naming variables again in ways that you don't want them to be named. So I refactor that. That's a good question. Where do you recommend people start if they feel stuck writing messy or overly complex code? Well, first of all, typically when you're writing messy and overly complex code, it means you are a beginner and you are doing a great job writing that code in the first place. And where to start? Well, if you find yourself writing messy and overly complex code, what you could do, if this is actually code that you can use with a certain AI tool, because that's actually something that you always need to check, that if it is code that belongs to someone else, you might not want to put it in any AI tool. But let's say it's my own code, it's for like my own project. I could place it, I could ask GitHub Copilot to refactor it, or I could start a session with ChatGPT saying, hey, look at this code. What are things for optimization, and what do I need to learn to write this code in an optimized way? So I actually recommend to use AI to improve your understanding that you need to write less complex code. And the book Clean Code is really good. Oh, last question already. What was one habit or mindset shift that helped you grow the most as a developer? Oh, that is a really great question. And what for me really helped, I've been stuck on so many things for so long, is always to just try to focus on like micro results. So if I understand my work a little bit better than I did yesterday, and it has to be like a tiny little bit, I'm actually happy. And by having these like positive like moments for yourself and like seeing that you're actually making a shift in the right direction, you stay optimistic and you can keep growing. So I think just having a optimistic view and not expecting too much while being consistent and progressing, I think that was for me what did the trick. All right, those were so many great questions. Thank you so much. If you want to continue this conversation or connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram or check out my YouTube channel, just go ahead and do so. And you can always message me about anything that you want to continue the conversation on, or just send me a picture of your cat. I'm here for that too.